Hello, I'm Bo, and welcome back to another episode of Final FMC, my horror-based TBR game where I get to play as a final girl trying to survive a killer TBR every month. I travel around this board using a six-sided die and drawing prompt cards based on the spaces I land on. There are 5 different space types on the board: killers, weapons, victims, locations, and plot twists. My TBR is complete when the killer reaches 0 lives. As always, for a more in-depth review of the rules, you can go back to my very first Final FMC video where I go over each and every rule in detail. And if you want to play the game for yourself, I have included a print and play that's totally free in the description box. You can go ahead and just print it out, you get the rule book and all the cards, and you get to play as your own final girl for the month. If you do end up playing, please leave a comment and let me know how it goes. I love to hear about other people enjoying my game. Now, before I jump into this month's game, I have to go over the epilogue phase from last month's game to see if my final girl survived. However, I have some big news I want to share with you first. Lexi over on Books with Lexi has asked me to help co-host her Escape the Readathon in May. This is a competitive teams-based readathon that I've heard is going to be completely chaotic. This is the first time that I'm going to be able to participate in the readathon, and on top of that, I get to co-host it. I'm so excited. It sounds like so much fun. Now, I'm going to link the announcement video that she made for it because she goes over all the rules and all the prompts for the readathon. But if you're excited to participate, the most important thing you're going to want to do is join her Discord. And then the second most important thing you're going to want to do is pick a team and pick the winning team. So you're going to want to be on Team Astronomers. And of course, that's my team that I'm co-hosting with Rochelle from Good Morning Dreamer and Mel from Mel Lenore Reads. The fun thing about Escape the Readathon that I've seen is that every single year, Lexi does a completely new theme. And the theme for this year is outer space. I feel like that's right on brand with Project Hail Mary and Artemis 2 and, all of that. So if you're into the space vibes right now, which I feel like a lot of us have been, you're really going to want to jump on this readathon. We're all a bunch of astronauts that are trying to escape this spaceship that's getting taken over by aliens. There's only one escape pod and room for only one team to escape. So we have to travel through the spaceship trying to get to the escape pod and make it out before the aliens get us. This sounds like so much fun. Also, if you can see, the shirt I'm wearing is part of her merch for Escape, and I just thought it was so cute I had to get it. Let me show you the back. Obviously, no pressure or requirement to get the shirt, but I just thought it was really cute and I really wanted it to commemorate my participation in the readathon. And also, speaking of merch, Lexi has the most beautiful bookmarks for this readathon. I'm obsessed. I think these are the prettiest bookmarks I've ever had, and I want to use them for everything I read moving forward. Now, of course, if you join Team Astronomers, this is the bookmark for our team. She also has these really cute helmet stickers too. So with that being said, I'm going to be keeping in mind the prompts for Escape the Readathon while I'm choosing my TBR for my final FMC game. So I guess in May, we're going to see if I can escape both the killer and the aliens without overwhelming myself. Now, speaking of aliens, the alien was the killer for my April TBR. So let's go into the epilogue now and see if I survived. I almost forgot to put on my alien abduction earrings. So in the month of April, my final girl was the goth, and her perk was if I read a book with a black cover, I get a location card for free. Read a gothic horror or witchy occult type book. And I chose to put Forsyth Conservatory on my TBR for the millionth time, and again for the millionth time, I did not get around to it. So I'm gonna stop putting that book on my TBR, and I'm just going to get to it when I get to it. You know what the issue is? It doesn't have an audiobook. So if a book does not have an audiobook, the likelihood of me getting around to it is slim to none. Like, let's just be honest, that's just what it is. I still have plans to do the reading vlog where I'm opening the interactive story box while I'm reading the book and showing you guys all the goodies inside. So that's still in the works. It's just gonna take some time because there's no audiobook to help me along. So with all that being said, I have lost my first life. And like I said earlier, the killer I got for April was the alien. So the first thing I did was escape. And for that prompt, I chose outer space or another planet. And for that book, I picked Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and I did read that book. I feel like it was a really appropriate time to read it, especially going into a space-themed readathon next month. The first space I landed on was a weapon prompt, and for that one I got the chef's knife, which was to read a book with food on the cover, and I chose to read Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, and I did finish that book. I actually had a really fun time buddy reading it with Mars from Starlit Library, and we used the buddy read feature on Storygraph, which was the first time I ever used it, and I loved it. The next space that I landed on that got me a prompt was the victim space, where I picked the Lovers card, which I think counts as 2 victims since there's 2 victims on the card. And unfortunately, they're going straight into the killer's body count because I was not able to save them. And for that prompt, I was supposed to read a spicy romance. Now, let me explain to you why I didn't read this book. I have a pretty valid excuse. Because Heated Rival is book 2 in a series, I was planning to read book 1 also. So I was going to read Game Changer and then Heated Rival, and I was pretty confident that I'd be able to get through it with the audiobook. However, I guess this is a if you know, you know situation, but the narrator for Game Changer and Heated Rival was absolutely unbearable to the point where I didn't get past page 1 before having to turn it off and return the book straight to Libby. I literally could not do it. And I'm not the only person that thinks this. I literally went straight to Google to see if I was just being dramatic or if it was that bad, and literally there's a whole Reddit thread about it. So because in my eyes there is not a audiobook available for me, I was not able to read Heated Rivalry, so I will lose another life. Now the next prompt I got was a plot twist, and for that I chose to do a scavenger hunt. And if you haven't seen my video yet, this is going to be a spoiler, but I ended up getting the book The Troop by Nick Cutter, and I loved this book. I read it and it was absolutely 5 stars. I highly recommend watching my bookshelf scavenger hunt video. It's so much fun, and I think you should do a bookshelf scavenger hunt for yourself because I had such a blast going through my whole bookshelf, finding different books to lead me to what ended up being a 5-star read. And now finally, the last prompt I got for April was another killer prompt, and for that one I chose prompt number 2, a book with androids, and I chose the book Anniebot, and as much as I wanted to read it, I didn't. I really didn't read a lot of books in April, but that's okay because the ones I read were really good, and I'm not mad about it. So unfortunately, I do lose another life. Now, that brings me down to 0 lives, but wait. The Goth has a perk that says if you read a book with a black cover, you can get a location card for free. I asked my husband, and he determined that Project Hail Mary does in fact have a black enough cover. So I'm going to take that free location card, which allows me to hide and get back 1 lost life. So because I have 1 life remaining, my final girl will survive the killer and I will defeat the alien and remove that killer from the killer deck. Now let's go to the stat board so you can see everything that I've done so far. 6 out of 14 killers have been defeated, 5 victims have been saved, 6 victims have been added to the killer's body count, and 4 out of 5 final girls are still alive, but the nerd does still have her second chance available. Now that we've gone over the epilogue and all of the stats, we can jump into May's final FMC TBR game. It looks like my final girl for May is going to be the good girl, and I love this final girl because she gives me 4 lives instead of 3. So I have a very high chance of surviving this month. Oh my god, somebody knock on wood. I feel like I just jinxed myself. Now, her prompt is to read a classic or closed door romance. And for this one, I'm going to choose the book Roll for Love by M.K. England. And this book is a sapphic YA romance revolving around the game of Dungeons and Dragons. And the reason why I'm going with this book is because one of the prompts for Escape the Readathon is to choose a book based off of one of our hosts' thumbnails. So I chose this video from Deja from Deja's Book World. So as you can see in her thumbnail, she has dice that she's going to be rolling to control her TBR. So I thought that was perfect to pick a D&D related book because there's dice in the game, there's dice on the cover, and I just thought it was perfect. And by the way, there's a story graph that somebody created for Escape the Readathon, and what I've done personally is added so many ideas for what I could read for every single prompt so that when the time comes and we actually unlock a certain room, I can go straight over there and pick from my multitudes of possibilities and choose whatever book I'm in the mood for. So hopefully I'll be in the mood for the books that end up on my final FMC TBR, and this is going to be one of them. So, I don't know, good luck to me. The killer that I got for May is The Stalker, and this killer is based off of Michael Myers from Halloween. So the first thing I always have to do is escape. So I chose prompt number 3, which was to choose a horror or thriller book that is set in a suburb. And that was actually so perfect because one of the book clubs that I'm in, called In the Void Book Club, is reading Good Neighbors by Sarah Langan, and I have to read that before June, which is when we are going to do our book discussion on that book with the author, which is going to be really cool. So I really have to get this book read in May anyways, and this just fits perfectly for this prompt. Good Neighbors, from the little blurb that I've read, is a dark, psychological suburban thriller. And some people say that it is very borderline horror, so I think because it's so dark, some people consider it a horror, where others don't really, but I think it really toes the line between horror and thriller in a suburban setting. So I think this is absolutely perfect, and I was gonna read it anyway, so this is great. It definitely also fits a few other prompts for Escape the Readathon. For instance, the prompt where you have to read a book with the author's name below the title. It also fits underhyped books because I don't ever hear anybody talking about this book. And if this is the first time you're ever hearing about it and you now want to read it too in May, you can use this for one of the escape prompts, that is finding a book that you've heard about from BookTube. Okay, moving right along, I landed on a killer space to start off the game. So I'm gonna go with prompt number 2, and that's to choose a book with a masked killer. So the book I'm choosing for this is going to be Curse of the Reaper by Brian Macaulay. Now, I've read one other book by Brian Macaulay, Breathe In, Bleed Out, and I did not enjoy it. So I'm not even sure if I'm a fan of Brian's writing. However, I did want to give this author a second chance because I love that he is a lover of horror films. I am also a big lover of horror films, so I feel like we have this in common, and I want to love his work because I feel like we have similar interests here. And now I was told that Curse of the Reaper is like a horror fan's horror book. So I feel like this one's going to resonate with me just a little bit more. I'm hoping. So I really want to pick this up, and I know it's about a masked killer, a horror film franchise where the person that played the killer in the movie is kind of old and washed up, and they're going to replace him in the remake. It just sounds like a lot of fun. So I'm really rooting for this book. Oh, and speaking of escape prompts, I anti-rec Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McCauley. So if you're interested in reading a slasher book, you can pick that book up and use it for the anti-rec prompt, because I did not like that book at all. Okay, the next prompt I got was a victim card, and for that it's going straight into the body count of the killer because I got the guide and I did not have a weapon to defend her with. Now the prompt for the guide is to choose one of the first 3 books that I see on my feed. I feel like the easiest thing would be to go to Bookstagram for this, but I'm gonna see how it goes using BookTube. Okay, the first thing I saw here was Tori's video for Roll for Reads, and she's holding a Dungeon Crawler Carl book. Now, I know I'm barely on book 2, and it's not the one she's holding, but I can just say I can read the next book in the series. The other books that I'm seeing that I saw right off the bat were All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby, and I've really been wanting to get to an S.A. Cosby book. I haven't read his books yet, and I just know that I'm gonna love them. And This Story Might Change Your Life by Tiffany Crum that Gabby Reads is holding up. But I'm gonna go with S.A. Cosby because I have been dying to read an S.A. Cosby book. I feel like anything I read from him is gonna be so good, and I've been so intimidated to pick up one of his books because for some reason I just feel like it's gonna be 5 stars, and I don't know why that intimidates me. You would think that I'd want to pick it up sooner to read a really good book, but for some reason, I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna be so intense. But I'm gonna do it. I'm finally gonna read an S.A. Cosby book, and it's gonna be All the Sinners Bleed. Now, I don't know too much about this book, but what I do know is that the main character is the first Black cop in their town, and he is searching for a serial killer that's on the loose, and it's kind of a mystery thriller book. I don't know how fast-paced it is, but I don't want to know too much about it because it is a mystery, and I want to just discover things as they go in the book. But honestly, S.A. Cosby is one of those authors that I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything negative about any of his books. So I'm going into this with really high expectations. Okay, for my last prompt, I landed on a killer space, and because I don't have any weapons, I have to escape again, which means I have to read their final prompt. And that prompt is to read a book that has a theme around obsession. Okay, this one actually took me a minute because obsession is kind of a broad theme. I could have kind of went in several different directions with this. I finally decided to go with Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And the reason why I ended up picking this is because one of my book besties, Ivy the Geek Goddess, hated this book. So I'm using this for the anti-rec prompt for Escape the Readathon. She literally went on a whole rant of this being the worst book she had ever read. I'm gonna go ahead and link that video down in the description because I was blown away that she hated it that much. Now I feel like I need to read it even more because I want to know what she's talking about, and I was already curious about this book to begin with since the movie came out and blah blah blah, and I really feel like I missed out on the hype around this book, so I kind of want to get to it and see what it's all about. And with that, that wraps up my final FMC game for the month of May. Again, if you're excited about Escape the Readathon, please come join Team Astronomers. Join us in the Discord. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. It's about to start, and I am so ready. If you made it to the end of the video, leave me an astronaut emoji, and I will see you in the Escape Discord. Bye!